What's up, y'all? My name is Devontae, and I sacrificed my time so you don't have to. Let me run through this because I have to put the poll out in a little bit, and I got like 2 more matches to review, and I'll be done with the Unforgiven 2000 review. I'll have that out later on tonight, around like 9 or 10 o'clock, so don't worry. For all y'all, Devontae, where's the review? Said Thursday, you should. Don't worry, it'll be out tonight. Don't worry. Before we even get to that, though, we're gonna get to that later on tonight. Let's talk about the here and the now and the today, if you will. AEW Dynamite Ratings Report. Link is down in the description box below if you'd like to follow along. Viewership and key demo ratings, year-to-year dates so far, and the comparisons to recent years. I didn't want to just look up the ratings. I wanted to kind of emphasize the point of what I'm trying to get across for the knuckleheads out there who want to talk about basketball is my favorite sport. I like to dribble all down the court. Like, shut your dumb ass up, little boy. Check this out real quick. Last night's May 8th episode of AEW Dynamite drew 711,000 viewers, up slightly from 703,000. That's about what, like a 8,000 fan difference? Not really anything worth talking about, obviously. And that last week's number was up from the 683,000 disaster that happened 2 weeks prior to that. Through 18 weeks this year, it has averaged 788,000 views. See, that's the reason why I wanted to highlight specifically this article, just to kind of hit home the point of what I'm talking about as far as AEW being down. It's not just basketball. It's not just sports overall. No, they are averaging their numbers. Their average number, meaning their median, meaning what they normally get, is somewhere around 788,000 views. Last year around this time, it was 889,000 views. So we're talking about a discrepancy of 100,000 fans lost on average from last year when it was already on the descent. 2 years ago, through 18 weeks around this portion, was 981,000 fans. So they lost 200,000 fans in the prior 2 weeks. 3 years ago, when they were starting to build themselves up, was 837,000. Mind you, they were only in there for about a year and a half. 4 years ago was 833,000. You see the pattern behind all this? You have the first year, full year, 2020, when they're going up against NXT. This 18 weeks around this portion, I think for a little bit they were still going up against NXT, but they were still startup. A year and a half in. This is prior to CM Punk, mind you, right? 2 years ago, they're starting to hit their peak in 2022, getting around 981,000 fans every week, average, close to 1 million. Last year, they're on the descent, 889,000, and now they're 788,000. This is their 5th year in. There's no competition between NXT, so none of that bullshit, none of that malarkey you want to pull against me. No, none of that nonsense. You want to bring 2021 and 2020 into the equation. Always notice the fact that, again, they competed against another company straight up, head to head, on the same day, on the same fucking day. And 2021, even for a small portion of that, they were competing against NXT, and that was still them a year and a half in. We are 5 years in. For the people who are like, well, Devontae, they're still younger than WWE. How many times we have to teach you this lesson, old man? Pay attention. One more time. No matter what time period we end up being in, WWE will always be 70 years older than AEW. WWE will always have a 40-year head start on television compared to AEW, no matter what time frame you want to put them in. You can only use this excuse for so long. And it just gets on my nerves because we want to see AEW grow. And none of this stuff is cutting the mustard at the moment. None of it. None of what you're seeing currently on television is cutting the mustard. I know you guys are going to probably sit back and tell me, Devontae, let's just wait and see how this is going to occur. Well, we can at least just look at the forecast, right? I mean, would you look at the forecast for your weather and then you tell yourself, oh, Devontae, I know it says that it's an 80% chance to rain, but we still got about 5 more minutes before it rains. Maybe it just might switch up. I mean, yeah, technically speaking, but the likelihood of that actually occurring at the moment doesn't really seem like that's going to happen. And you know why it's not happening at the moment? See, people keep talking about, oh, Jack Perry this and the Young Bucks that and Kazuchika Okada this, and no one gives a fuck about these people. And you're right, absolutely, no one really gives a fuck about them. But honestly, if you gave more of a reasoning for people to give a shit about them, then maybe we actually care about them. Now, again, I will say this. Once again, I like the fact that they're now going on the offense and they're telling more stories. We understand that. I like the fact that they're doing that for multiple feuds throughout the card. It's a change up compared to what they were doing previously, right? But at the same time, though, people are not connecting with the stories that you're currently putting out there, AEW. Look, I know that you want so badly to get over with this stupid fucking angle in regards to the Young Bucks and Jack Perry and Okada and yada 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 yada. But this right here is just too close to the cliche that we've been seeing within professional wrestling for nearly 30 years. Going all the way back to the NWO, coming up forward to the McMahon-Helmsley regime, going a little bit back to D-Generation X, going up a little tiny bit more forward to the Nexus, going all the way around the Bullet Club, Gold, whatever the fucking names are, Bullet Club in general. Like, we've been seeing this takeover storyline for so long, and you're not really giving us anything different. And on top of that, now you can take all the superstars who are now plot devices within all this, and then you put them in that position to try to carry a story that's been cliche for over 30 years. I mean, honest to God, what can you legitimately expect? Like, you know what I mean? We've been seeing the same angle for so fucking long, and you're putting people in the position that in reality they don't fit any of that. They just don't fit that mold, and you've done so much to discredit, in my opinion. And I'm not saying AEW in the sense are doing that to themselves, because obviously the Young Bucks are EVPs. Obviously Jungle Jack Perry, he knows that he has to do certain things in order to get himself over. It took the guy almost 3 years to get on the microphone to cut a fucking hair and promo, because he was so goddamn shit. He was so goddamn scared, so cowardly, that he didn't want to go out his way to cut a promo on his own. That's not me saying, and that's what he said in the interview. He feels more comfortable wrestling than to actually go out there and cut promos. And you have Kazuchika Okada, who barely has a grasp on the English language. You know what would have actually helped us out a lot? And people are going to probably be like, Devontae, you're just saying this because you're a fanboy for the guy. Okay, cool. You can say this as much as you want to. But in my opinion, considering that Swerve Strickland is the world champion, you put the belt on him for a fucking reason. I mean, obviously the main person who will probably help all this out, come to one, you can probably glue it all together with CM Punk. But let's just get over the CM Punk hump. I said it once and I'll say it again. That ship has sailed. Punk ain't never coming back. Even if he wasn't under contract, Punk ain't never coming back. You ruined that. You had multiple upon multiple opportunities to get that corrected, and you didn't do it. It's over. Hasta la vista, baby. So you need to want to fit that mold. You need to want to fit that position. And honestly, this is my opinion. Like I talked about during the Attitude Era, what happened all the time, minus the linear storytelling, that's already a fucking given, but you need to focus on these superstars. That's the only way this whole stable with the Elite is going to be able to get over with a mainstream audience or people that actually give a shit. You need to treat your television show, wait for it, like a television show. All the stuff that, and this is, and people are going to probably be like, Devontae, you're just copying off of Vince Russo, but that's what I grew up on. And say what you want about Vince Russo's style of producing, I get it. I understand that some of his shit can be insanely fucking cringe, but the man was excellent of holding your attention. Say whatever you will. He was excellent at holding your attention. Not strictly because of the stories that were filtered by everybody else surrounding Vince Russo, but also because he focused primarily on that main thing throughout the night. He took the biggest superstar, he took the biggest angle, and he forced it down your throat. You think McMahon and Austin would have been able to get over in the type of booking format that AEW produces? Hell fucking fuck no. You leave it up to AEW, you might be lucky to see Austin and McMahon twice a month, let alone twice on the same fucking show. You need to put all your focus onto your main story. Fuck all that other shit, bruh. Fuck all the stuff with Orange Cassidy and this. Fuck all the stuff with the women. Give them 2 minutes. Give them 5 minutes tops to get their shit in. Let them develop their characters. Let them develop their stories, and they can have their important matches on the pay-per-view. Like I said, it's nothing wrong with having one solid good match every 2 or 3 weeks. It's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, you need to focus on your primary story. You're almost there. You're getting warmer. You're getting warmer. You're getting warmer. You're getting hot. You understand now that that story is going to be what's going to be the driving force. Well, okay, all the superstars that you got from WWE, AEW, why did you take them? Huh? Why did you get them? Because the majority of them got over in WWE. Not all of them, obviously. Not all of them. But why did you pick up the majority of them? Why did you get CM Punk? Because he was the biggest free agent at that point in time in the world. How did he get so fucking over to the point where he can be considered that big of a deal? Because of his character, but not just strictly the character, but making him the primary focus, making his story, his character, everything in regards to who he is, the primary focus for a long period of time. What you need to do is you need to either get the belt off of Swerve Strickland and you need to put it on someone in the Elite, which I think is a terrible idea, but I need the primary focus to be on that World Heavyweight Championship, and clearly you're not going to fucking do that. So take Swerve Strickland and enforce him. Force him in that fucking feud. It needs to be Swerve Strickland taking on the Elite. That should have been on the offset. And I don't care who you put in the position to fight a Swerve Strickland. It could be a Jack Perry, it could be whoever you want to put in that position, but that needs to be your feud going forward, and that needs to be your primary focus. Hell, if you don't feel comfortable about Jack Perry being in that position, maybe you should have took Christian, and maybe you should have put Christian within the Elite, and maybe Christian could have been the mouthpiece, or Christian could have been the focal point of the Elite with Jack Perry and him making up. Something along the lines of that. Anyways, regardless, you need to get Swerve Strickland to go up against the Elite, and you need to make that your primary focal point on your show. I don't know what else to say. When you're focusing on so many things, you're not focusing on anything. Does that make any sense to anybody? When you're focusing on so many things, you're not focusing on anything. And all these distractions with all these nothing matches, I keep trying to tell these people that equity is going to be the destruction of professional wrestling. You keep trying to go out of your way to pretend that everybody is on equal footing. No, they're not. What you have to do in order to put them on equal footing is destroy the credibility of your world championship. What you have to do to put them on equal footing is destroy the credibility of whatever championship belt that you have at the moment. That's why you keep taking these priorities and then juxtaposing it and putting it directly over superstars who, in any other situation, in any other circumstances, would be at the top of the card, garnering all the attention. Look, I like Willow Nightingale. I like what she brings to the table. But she is the TBS champion, right? So maybe you should have took Serena Deeb and you should have put her up against fucking Willow Nightingale, right? You have Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, however you like to refer to her. I'm not the biggest fan of her, but objectively, she is one of the biggest women's names today in professional wrestling. So why aren't you focusing on her and your biggest women's star, Toni Storm? That should be the go-to. And again, you got to prioritize this. Multiple people getting the... So... as I talked about in the Attitude, I think I mentioned this before, how I used to be. Let's just take 1988 for an example, right? Let's take 4 of the biggest angles of 4 of the biggest draws at the time, right? At the time. Let's just say the summer of 98. Number 4, you can make an argument 9 times out of 10, probably Sable, right? She was the one that got the most attention out of all the women. Let's put Sable at number 4. Number 3 would probably be most likely Undertaker and Kane, right? That'd probably be number 3. Number 2 will probably be the continuation of whatever stuff D-Generation X is doing at that moment. You can probably swap that with Kane and Undertaker also. It depends on how you look at it. But either A, that's 2, or that's 3, or Kane is number 2 and that's number 3. Whatever you want to look at it, that's number 2 in my opinion, though. And number 1 was obviously Austin and McMahon, right? So you prioritize that. You gave Sable probably like 2 or 3 segments to get herself over. Then you turned around and you gave Undertaker and Kane like 4 or 5 segments. Then you turned around and you gave D-Generation X so they're continuing throughout the entire show. Then you gave Austin and McMahon the primary focus. Always going back to them before commercial break to see what they're still up to. That's how you prioritize. And everything else in the middle, you let them do their thing. And if they get over, then you prioritize them during the next pay-per-view or during the next time when the time comes around when you're ready to switch in a superstar to fight against the next over guy. That's how everybody got over in the Attitude Era. This consistent focusing on just the matches. I think I heard Solomon say this one time, and I can't help but wholeheartedly fathomably disagree with this nonsense way of thinking, of believing wrestlers going out there and winning matches is what's going to be able to get them over. That's just half the picture. I'm not saying he's wrong. This is what I mean when I talk about people like Solomonster, for instance, but which, by the way, I absolutely respect his opinion, because 9 times out of 10, I hear his thoughts sometimes, and we think very similar because we grew up in the same environment. I understand we both grew up in the Attitude Era, so we think the same in regards to wanting to put primary focus on the actual story in itself, or as far as getting to the conclusion. But the destination to get there is always different. And I think this mindset of believing that professional wrestling is going to be the end-all be-all to get everybody over. No, the end-all be-all. Yes, it does help people get over. Let me rephrase that. Yes, when you use that as your climax at your pay-per-view, then the winning the match part is important. But in order to get to that point in time, you need to have established characters that people give a damn about. Look what you did with Swerve Strickland when you put him up against Hangman Adam Page. And honestly, that was just the bare minimum. Because if you go back back and look at those shows, 9 times out of 10, you could probably find maybe one segment all the time each week. You never got 2 segments out of Swerve Strickland and Heyman Adam Page. Sometimes you did, but most of the time you didn't. It's probably only one segment. You did the bare minimum of that, but you gave them so much time each week to develop their story, and you built up so much tension, and you did outside things regarding the build up to it, not just staying in the ring and throwing fucking shots at each other or doing promos in the ring or doing backstage stuff. No, you did so much, and you dedicated so much time that when those guys went into the pay-per-view, then the match was important. Then Swerve Strickland winning was important. That's when it's important. But this whole consensus and this whole way of thinking and believing that wrestling is the end-all be-all, let the guys go out there, give them a couple of minutes, and that's what's going to be what's good. No, that's what AEW's been doing this entire time. What, you want to see more of that consistently? Okay, what does that do for Orange Cassidy, for example? I feel like we see Orange Cassidy every week winning fucking matches. How is his segments doing currently at the moment? Is that helping out anything? No. What's going to help in the end of the day is prioritizing your superstars to make sure the one who's the most important is getting the most segments, and the one who's the least important is at least going out of their way to see if we can present something. Not to mention, you get more characters over that way. You give each of these matches. Look at NXT. Look at NXT, bruh. They get like 10 matches in while still being able to focus on the superstars. It just sucks for NXT because AEW has talent, has names who are bigger than NXT for the most part, right? They have bigger talents as far as names are considered, as far as the median is considered compared to NXT. But their booking is flawed as fuck. Can you imagine if NXT has some of the names AEW had? Can you imagine if NXT has some of the names SmackDown or Raw had? Better yet, can you just imagine Shawn Michaels being the booker overall for a Raw and a SmackDown or an AEW and taking the same philosophy he puts in NXT into one of these shows? This shit would be fucking into a new renaissance period because of how many people would have been getting over at this point in time. That's how it's done. But if you're going to continue this nonsense way of believing that, hey, if my guy go out there and he can just do wrestling moves, boom, boom, power driver, wrestling moves, bleed for me, bleed, let me focus on fucking Orange Cassidy and Trent Beretta and not put more emphasis on the Elite. Again, you're doing a great job as far as now being able to tell stories. You weren't doing that beforehand, but you need to put more focus on that talent, and you need to have that talent doing more. There always has to be cliffhangers and reasoning to want to tune into AEW. There is no cliffhanger that came out of the show next week, so I don't know what the fuck you're going to do next week. What cliffhanger came out of this week? FTR? Bryan Danielson? Eddie Kingston going up against the Elite? That's a cliffhanger? That's not a cliffhanger at all. Who the hell cares about that? When I say cliffhanger, I'm talking about Vince McMahon going up against Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Austin's hand is tied behind his back. And Dude Love comes out and he attacks Stone Cold Steve Austin after saying that he wasn't going to return anymore, that he was retiring after his match with Terry Funk and the New Age Outlaws in the Steel Cage match the night after WrestleMania 14. And he comes back as a heel and he attacks Austin and he's helping out Vince McMahon, who's establishing himself as a heel character. That's a cliffhanger. That's how it's done. A cliffhanger is a pay-per-view going off the air and Stone Cold Steve Austin getting his belt taken away from Vince McMahon, and Vince McMahon in a limousine sticking his middle finger at Austin. You'll never have it, Austin. You're fired. And you wanted to tune in to Raw the next night to see what's going to happen. Bang, 316. What's going to happen next week? Shane McMahon signed a contract for Stone Cold Steve Austin to be here? Is that... Okay, what's going to happen the following week? We're going throughout the Deadly Games tournament. That's cliffhangers. That's character development. That's how it's done. This nonsense of consistently saying wrestling, you ain't gonna get shit done with that mentality. All thing you're gonna do is lose more fans, or maybe gain slightly more fans, but then eventually lose those fans. It's not how it's done. I'm just saying, take it or love it, leave it or love it. I don't know what to tell you guys. I mean, if you guys were... And you'll be the first person, someone's, let AEW do what they want to do. But then when we talk about the Attitude Era, so why do you guys just won't let the Attitude Era die? Yeah, let the Attitude Era die so we have no wrestling because this company's dying at the fucking moment. Get the fuck out of here. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Devontae, you're so wrong. Yada, yada, yada. I'm just going to say you're wrong. You're an AEW hater. Enabler fucking this. Enabler fucking that. I know we've been hearing the tall tales of the AEW faithful for years now. This is why your company's in the shape that it's in right now. Honestly, it's like a fucking beaten wife or something. It's like, I don't know what to tell you, bro. It's like a beaten wife. And my husband, he's a good guy. Yeah, there's a black guy right here. Well, we didn't have any tattoo guns, and he wanted to give me one around my eye. That's why I wanted it. I want the tattoo around my eye. Don't mind me. He loves me. I love him too. You just don't understand our love. And then you come back the next day with a second black guy. He loves me double. Alright, bro. Okay, keep it up then, man. But let me get away from your toxic ass, because you're really pissing me off just by looking at you. Because I'm gonna throw hands at your ass next. But with that being said, let me get the fuck up out of here. Let me go finish up this Unforgiven 2000 pay-per-view review. As always, my name is Devontae, and I'll see you guys later on tonight. Deuces, P. Ice.